Hey, what's going on, everybody? Steve here, Raiken Profit, coming to you live with a online arbitrage panel discussion. Got quite a few of my friends on the live call tonight, and you may have recognized a couple faces. We got Flips for Miles, who I believe is 23 or 24. One of those.
Yeah, I'll be 24 in September.
24, doing a little over 200K per month. With online arbitrage. We got John at Side Hustle Experiment. Last time we talked to Miami, I think you were a little over 20K a month. What are you doing now?
About 30 with books and OA.
All right.
But yeah, next month should be about 40, 50.
Awesome. And then we got Seth with Checkmate Flips, who him and I have been really becoming good friends behind the scenes. I think he's doing around 40 to 50K, something around there per month. He does a lot of eBay to Amazon flips similar to me. And, afterwards we'll talk about what he does and whatnot, but great to have Seth here. And then we got Jameson Philippi with the beard coming through, moved to Vegas, hasn't shaved since. And, Jameson's been doing, I think for the last couple of years, you've been doing what, over 7 figures per year on Amazon with online arbitrage?
Yeah.
Very cool. So we got a really awesome panel. We're going to do some introductions in a second. For now, let's shout some people out. If you guys see anybody in the comments that we're going to do some introductions. Whoa. If you guys see anybody in the comments that you recognize, feel free to shout some people out. I see Logan, Tony Resales, Fields of Profit. Do you know who that is, Miles?
Oh, yeah, that's my guy. Definitely.
Yeah, great. If you guys are here live, feel free to drop a comment down below. Let us know where you are coming in from. I'm in Connecticut. I know Jameson's in Vegas. I think Seth's in Colorado. John, where are you at? PA. Miles, I think you're in PA as well. So we got the East Coast, we got the West Coast. So drop a comment. Let us know where you are coming from. And the way it's going to work tonight, it's going to be about an hour show. The first half of the show, I've got about 11 questions that I formulated, and pretty much I'm going to ask a question, then we're going to go around kind of round robin style and answer the questions. Again, we all have somewhat of a different business model via online arbitrage on Amazon, a different story. Some of us have been doing it for just a couple of years. Jameson's been doing it pretty much since he's been growing out his beard, so about 20 years or so. Jameson's been reselling since the Red Nose days for anyone who goes back to the green room. So let's get right into things. So Miles, do you want to start off by sharing a little bit about maybe who you are, where can people follow you online, and what type of business model, like via online arbitrage, do you run? So take it away, Miles.
Yeah, so my name's Miles. I go by Flips for Miles on all platforms. That's Flips, the number 4 miles. It's right here. You can check me out or whatever. I co-own the online arbitrage sourcing tool SellerAmp as well, and I do full-time online arbitrage, like 2.1-ish mil the last 12 months. With everything, I do a model where I pretty much reverse source items. I use a prep center, send my inventory there, and a sales tax or state arbitrage a little bit like that. I do strictly reverse sourcing using SellerAmp to find items by looking at what items are working for other sellers with high review counts typically, then going out and looking for those items profitably. And a big fan of, volume, turn stuff quick, even if it means a little bit less margin, just pumping through products as much as possible, getting as much out to Amazon, buying as much as possible, and having a good time in the process. But yeah, so I do OA replens, and I source using just reverse sourcing, nothing really too complicated.
Very nice. And again, he's 23 years old, which is really cool. And big shout out again to SellerAmp. Miles put me onto that probably about
2 weeks or so. Yeah, 3 weeks ago.
Maybe like a month or so. And it's literally like completely changed my business. Like it's probably saving my virtual assistants like at least 2 hours a day. No joke. I'm not here to like shameless plug. I guess it's helping me so much. So you guys definitely check that out. So thanks for coming on, Miles. And everyone's linked up down below as well, their YouTubes. All right, John, Side Hustle Experiment. Share a little bit about who you are. What type of online arbitrage model do you run, and where can people find you?
So my name is John Mascarello, Side Hustle Experiment on Instagram and also YouTube. I do a very similar thing to what Miles does. I was a big bulk bookseller. I'm slowly but surely getting away from books. I've been doing that for about 2 years, but I've been mainly doing a lot of online arbitrage, reverse sourcing with SellerAmp. I dabble a little bit in I can't think of the name of it, but tactical arbitrage a little bit, but mostly reverse sourcing, doing a couple different things, you kind of using reverse sourcing on tactical arbitrage, but that's kind of what I'm doing. Probably do about 30 to 40 a month, really just depends on the month. I also sell on eBay, so that's kind of lumped in there. And yeah, happy to be here.
Awesome, man. Great to have you here, man. And we definitely got to connect soon. We shot a video in Miami. I think that went live a little bit ago, which was really cool. So awesome, John. Check them out, Side Hustle Experiment. Then we got Mr. Checkmate Flips, aka the man who is live every day showing you what to literally buy, which I've been enjoying a lot. What's going on, Seth? Who are you? Where can people find you? And tell people about your business model, because I think it's really intriguing.
I appreciate that, Steve. So my business model is pretty similar to the regular online arbitrage, but a lot of what I do is actually used items from eBay to Amazon. And so you can find those items that will sell over and over again. In a similar way, you reverse source people who actually are doing the same thing. You can tell that they're purchasing from eBay and Mercari and other sites like that to sell on Amazon. So the margins are a little bit higher because they're used items, and also the returns are a little bit higher. So there's a little bit of a trade-off there. But it's going pretty well for me. I've been doing around 50 to 70K a month. So it's been working out pretty well.
Lightweight, baby. That's what we like to hear. Awesome, man. Very nice. So definitely check out Seth at Checkmate Flips. And again, he's literally showing you what he sources and how he does it, which is really cool. Not a lot of people do that. Then we got Mr. Jameson, man. It's so good to see you, always bringing that positive energy. So Jameson's been on my channel probably 77 times. It's almost like he pretty much co-owns my YouTube channel. What do you do, man? Tell people about what you're focused on nowadays with your online arbitrage and your Amazon business.
Yeah, definitely. I got really heavy. So I got really heavy into OA last year when I moved to Vegas. I wasn't super heavy into OA then, but RA out here has gotten pretty tough. So my business pretty much right now is around 50-50 OA, RA, but it fluctuates depending on what time of year it is. I do a lot of Amazon to Amazon flips. I use like Keepa and stuff like that. And I go and set Keepa alerts on all the old toys that I've bought from, Target and Walmart and stuff like that, hoping that if Amazon comes in stock one day. And so I have set up on my Keepa account probably around 1,500 Keepa alerts of like all rare, old, discontinued toys. And I'm continuing to grow that list as I scour, on Amazon, different old items that Amazon may or not come back in stock in after like a year or 2 years of not being in stock. So I'm trying to grow that side of the business while I'm doing RA, still doing the RA trips across the country, 4 or 5 times a year. Just got back from an RA trip, and then I'm shipping everything out that I bought. And then we're just slowly building the OA stuff while I do all my OA to my prep center in Missouri. So that's pretty much what I've been up to lately this last year.
Nice. And they could follow you on YouTube at Jameson Philippi. Also Instagram. Is your handle Jameson Philippi as well on Facebook?
Yeah. Same on both. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Check out his YouTube channel. We did a video together on the beach, which was really heartfelt. It was super awesome. So check out his channel. And you guys know my story. I'm doing around 20 to 25K a month online arbitrage, eBay to Amazon flips, very similar to Checkmate Flips, but I do a lot of new items, a lot of new DVDs. I also do some books, board games, puzzles, items like that. So yeah, let's get right into the show, guys. Let's jump into things. And again, links to everybody's social is down below. So let's get into the first question. And again, guys, for everyone watching in the comments, first half of the show, we're just going to kind of blow through these questions, add a lot of value. Then make sure to hold your questions because we're going to go through rapid fire and answer your guys' questions that are in the comments. So let's start off with Miles, and let's keep the responses to maybe like a minute or less just to get through these questions. Miles, why did you choose your current business model of selling Nike and Lego and Adidas over, the other various online arbitrage models on Amazon?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I've been reselling shoes prior ever since high school. So like 5+ years essentially. So once I figured out ungating, which was actually several years into the process, it's very easy to do now and everything like that. It was so native to me to dig around sites, look for coupons and everything. And that's pretty much what I do today. But I was also doing that, 2, 3, 4 years ago and everything like that. So that was what came naturally. And I live in Pennsylvania. So there's no sales tax on shoes and clothing, and now ship everything through New Hampshire where there's no sales tax on anything to my knowledge. So we're able to arbitrage that, and I buy from sites there is no sales tax exempt. So therefore, shipping to a sales tax free state, I'm paying so much less than other people. Therefore, I can buy more, sell for longer, reprice differently, all that. But yeah, OA, in my mind, it is the perfect hybrid between wholesale and retail arbitrage, because retail arbitrage typically is harder to scale, and wholesale is harder to get started with, when OA is easy to start and easy to scale if you do it right. So it kind of blends the two and everything like that. But I'm definitely not against other mods. I even really like wholesale. I just haven't done it myself and just really stick to OA.
Awesome. Very nice. And John, why did you decide to do your model of online arbitrage versus all the other OA models out there, or, even scaling eBay or Poshmark or whatever? Why do you do what you do?
So I'm a little different. I have not had much experience with OA. Prior, I was doing bulk books and eBay and everything like that. And then I met Miles selling books and basically kind of saw what he was doing with OA. And with restock limits and everything, I started to get like the bug and kind of just figure it out, ask Miles a lot of questions and stuff like that, and then kind of got into OA. And I just really like it. It's much more scalable. I as well do, I have a prep center, so they pretty much prep all my stuff. And I just like the idea of being able to do it anywhere. Bulk books, I have to have employees, I need a warehouse, I need equipment, and like getting all that stuff is just not feasible for a lot of people. So I think OA is just a really great place to start. It does require more capital, but there are also a lot of trade-offs. Books are a lot of work and labor, so it kind of washes out.
Yeah, I love the scalability of online arbitrage. Seth, eBay to Amazon flips, man. You and I are the only ones really doing a lot of the eBay to Amazon, at least at scale. Why did you decide to go that route, especially without, legit invoices? I'm sure you get that a lot in your YouTube channel, versus, buying from, legitimate online arbitrage sources.
Yeah, and I saw that comment as well. We can talk more about that. But basically, the reason that I like to do eBay to Amazon is because the margins tend to be a bit bigger. And you can also balance it out with purchasing stuff that's going to sell really quickly. So like for me right now, I'm trying to purchase stuff that's going to sell within 1 or 2 weeks of being active. And so I really like to get this stuff moving quickly and like have a lean operation as far as inventory goes. And as far as the invoices, it is 100% a riskier business model. And also there are booksellers who sell thousands and thousands and thousands of used books per year with no invoices. And so I have to be careful to like look at all the Keepa information, make sure that the brand isn't selling on the listing, do my due diligence, and then make sure that the customer's happy. Because if I'm sending stuff without cords, I'm just kind of shooting myself in the foot, asking for problems. So that's how I mitigate the risk for myself.
Yeah, good point about checking for, who's selling it. I actually got an IP complaint that I shared with you the other day, and it's because I just wasn't paying attention. There was only one seller, and it was the brand. A lot of times they'll literally name themselves, their store will be named the brand. And it's like, that's a big no-no. Another reason to use SellerAmp as well. And since I've been using that, now I can see the IP complaints coming in, and like the private label sellers. So it's really good to keep an eye out for that. Jameson, why do you do what you do, man? I know you're really heavy into the toys, discontinued video games and toys and stuff like that. What's your thought process on that?
I like doing this business side of the business model. I've really gotten into the long-term hold game too. I don't know. There's just something about like, I guess like the hunt, the thrill of the hunt, like that thing, that part of the business has never left me. Like when I used to do thrift stores and stuff and garage sales, when you get super excited when you found a rare item, like, I don't know, just the feeling of that, like to me is like what makes selling on Amazon and eBay fun. So like, I want to continue to have that feeling as I'm running my business. And that's why I really love doing like rare toys, old toys. This last year, I've gotten pretty heavy into long-term holds. I'm probably up, over the 6 figures and stuff that I'm holding to sell hopefully this Q4 or next. I've got storage unit. I've got probably 40 pallets worth of toys at my prep center that they're holding for me. And then I have a huge storage unit in Vegas. And then I have a couple other smaller units too that I'm holding stuff in. So I'm trying to grow that side of the business just because I want to like go heavy into a smaller amount of SKUs where I have a year or 2 year supply of that toy. So I can just trickle it in every month and have a 2 year supply and build that up to where I have hundreds of SKUs like that, where I can just slowly trickle them out every month, where I'm doing less work up front, and I can more so enjoy my life and enjoy freedom of actually just, life, and not like dumping so much hours and time running the business, what I've, been prone to doing. Because sometimes I get stuck and I'm just like working 60, 70 hours a week because I'm having fun. It's great. But it's like I want to take some more time for myself, travel, have fun, and stuff like that. So long-term hold toy game is like where I'm really focusing my business this year.
Yeah, that's interesting. And one of the things that I've really learned over the last year, and I've heard a lot of people talking about it. I know Miles talks a lot about like test buys, and Checkmate Flips and we were talking. The more you sell on Amazon, you start to collect a lot of data. So you start to learn like what items sell, how often they sell. You start to learn like the habits of the buy box and like the sellers coming in and out. And sometimes a price drops down or Amazon comes in stock. I know Jameson and we were talking about, buying items and then waiting for Amazon to go out of stock. So that's really interesting. For me, I like the eBay to Amazon flips, buying a lot of new items, is because it's low competition, just because I feel like it is a bit riskier because people are so scared of not having that invoice. But at the end of the day, my opinion, and feel free to disagree with me, guys, I feel like selling on Amazon with anything is like Russian roulette. Like if you're not buying direct wholesale, like if they want to take you out or if they call your card, like they might not accept a retail receipt. And I'm curious what Miles has to say about that. But I like the low competition, the high margins. And again, I think a lot of people are scared of DVDs. So it's just really easy to source. Real quick, before we move on to the next question, Miles, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's way riskier to sell? Like, do you think what Checkmate Flips and I do is way riskier than like what you and Jameson and John do? Like your honest opinion, like don't hold back.
Yeah, I don't know. Have you ever tried like an eBay, like receipt to beat something like an inauthentic complaint or anything? The IP complaint side of things, that doesn't really matter. I mean, obviously it matters, but that's no different in that if they IP you, it's because they don't want you selling it, not because like whatever. But something like an inauthentic complaint, Amazon's actually way better as of recently in terms of taking retail receipts, email confirmation, stuff like that. Like I've sold, like between 20 and 30,000 units, and I've gotten like 27 inauthentic complaints. That's like a really small percentage of them, and I've beaten all except one. And the one that dropped off, it didn't even take the listing down. So Amazon's, I think, adopting a lot more of online arbitrage principles. They're being nicer, taking stuff. Amazon invoices even work for ungating. Like if you buy from Amazon and submit the receipt, you'll get ungated. You know what I mean? And everything. So
that'll be $400. PayPal me. I'll tell you how to get ungated.
Yeah, dude. Like they're I just think they're a lot better. And yeah, the inauthentic, that would be an issue, but that really doesn't happen a lot. And when you're selling lots of SKUs, something like a used item where you're probably not buying a lot of that specific ASIN, it shouldn't be a big deal in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Like every morning when I log into my account, and I've sold thousands of DVDs over the years. Like I've scaled my business over the last year, but like over the last 8 years, I've sold so many DVDs, so many books. Like I've never gotten a counterfeit claim.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. I mean, it could happen any day, but I log in every day and I'm like, what am I going to find? Is my death wish going to be brought to me today? And I know Checkmate Flips talks a lot about this. You've gotten a couple maybe in the past IPs and stuff, Checkmate, right?
Yeah, I've gotten a couple IPs and a couple counterfeits. Yep.
Yeah.
Did you get around the counterfeits?
They're just sitting there. So.
Oh, okay. Did you try?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Damn, that
Yep.
sucks. Okay, so maybe they don't. Probably they must not like eBay stuff. I don't know. Submit it like 10 times, and eventually they'll stop responding. It
I could just keep resubmitting it.
So. I got a couple unauthentics and literally submitted the same invoice 5 times, and the 5th time worked.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's great. Yeah.
People said, I was listening to something today. They said try different times of the day because different like staff is working.
Ooh,
so like if you did it today at like 7, maybe try it tomorrow morning at 7 because someone else will most likely read it.
Facts.
What I'm curious is, do they keep like an itemized case log of like every time you reach out and try to get a new person? I'm curious, or they're just too big. They can't even.
Yeah, I think it's AI that looks at that stuff, to be honest. I know it is for ungating. I'm pretty sure it is for ungating, but either way, right? Getting it at a different time. That's absolutely right. Yeah, you got to go to war. You got to go to war with them about stuff like that because you have everything to gain. You have everything to gain in that situation.
Cool. Awesome, guys. Appreciate the transparency. Let's move on to the next question. We'll start with Jameson first. Since it's one of the toughest questions, we'll hit him with this right now. What's your biggest challenge you're dealing with right now, guys, in your business? And what are you trying to do to overcome it? Jameson?
Good question, man. I guess right now my biggest challenge is what the thing that I have had trouble with a lot, and I've got a lot of good friends that are holding me accountable, is that like when Target and Walmart start running their clearance, like I would go out and just load up carts and carts and carts full of name brand stuff that was 70% off, thinking like, oh, it'll recover back to retail price one day and I can make some money on it. And I would spend, tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars, load up all this stuff, stack it up, box it up, put it in my storage unit. And, following year hits and it's like a lot of it never took off. And it was like, I kept making that mistake. And I actually was in Target yesterday. Right now they have, if you guys are hitting the Target clearance, it's a Spin Master toy. It's like a koala bear thing. You push the thing and it talks. It's like a $40 retail toy. And there was about 60 of them just chilling on the shelf. And I started grabbing one and I'm like, oh man, I'm going to grab all these. And I had to call a good buddy of mine. I'm like, dude, please, will you tell me that I'm being an idiot right now? And I sent him over the ace and he was like, yes, this is what you're doing. You just because something's 70% off and a name brand, and it was selling for $60, last Q4, and it's $11 now, does not mean it's going to do that again. He's like, how many times have you been burned by following those patterns in your business? And so the few that I put in my cart, I went and put back on the shelf, and I'm like, all right, that's probably my biggest issue. And I was going through my storage unit yesterday and some of my holds, and I was looking at stuff I bought a year and a half ago that still hasn't taken off. So I'm in the process now of dumping all that crap, learning from it, moving on, and going on and doing better next time. So that's right now, the last few weeks, I've been going through all that stuff and getting rid of all the trash that I bought that I shouldn't have bought in the first place. And so definitely learning expensive lessons doing this.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the process. Every single one of my reseller friends, we all go through it at one point or another. And I'm even going through my inventory now. And, before I had Seller Amp, again, I keep shouting out Seller Amp because I love how one of the things it's he's not paying me, I promise, but like, you have no idea how much I've enjoyed it. It will share with you how many monthly sales an item has instead of having to go check Keepa or your e-score, which is 6 months. So like I would buy items that only had like a couple sales per month versus now, like I look for DVDs that have at least like 8 to 10 sales a month. And it, you just end up buying a bunch of junk into the beginning and you just don't realize all because it's profitable doesn't mean it's ever going to sell and make you money. Especially at scale. So Checkmate, what are your thoughts, man? What are you dealing with? What are you struggling with?
Yeah, I mean, we already kind of were talking about it. The whole issue of like dealing with counterfeit claims and IP claims is probably the most risky and difficult thing about this business. The sourcing and the systems are going really well. And the IP and like the risk and the risk mitigation is the harder part about this for me.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Like I said, I log into my account every morning and I'm like, I do usually 5 minutes of meditation, a ice bath, and then, I check my account health. It's been good so far, but we'll see how it goes. John, what's going on, man?
Probably for me, it's been like really making the decision to walk away from books. I mean, last year I had the best year ever, almost did about $500,000 in just books alone, which it's a lot of books compared to OA. Like OA is so much easier to do that same number. And just kind of like being like, yeah, you build all these systems, you have all this great stuff in place, but for me, it's just not the future. And it's been really hard because even though I am an Amazon seller and have been for 3 or 4 years, OA is just so much different than books. And there's just so much more to look after and pay attention to. And it's just kind of like with books, like you're just used to buying so many, especially when you're buying in bulk. But OA, like you don't want to be buying like 10 of something that's $50 that like you're not sure of. If you bought 10 books, it costs you like 10, $20. It's not a big deal. But with OA, so really just making that final decision, walking away from books. I basically cleared out the whole warehouse this week, pretty much got everything out. So yeah, challenge, but a good challenge.
Yeah, those are tough decisions, man, to absolutely, completely change your business model. But the saying, you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again and
Yeah.
expecting a different result. And you got to respect your mental health and, your goals. Your goals are completely different than everyone else's. And whatever your goal is, man, that's what's best for you. And that's what you got to do. So congrats on making that decision. Miles, what about yourself, man? I know you've scaled to over 200K a month right now, which is crazy. I'm curious to hear what you're struggling with.
Yeah, so I think it would be like we all become entrepreneurs and like do our own thing for control, and it's starting to kind of deal with delegation and stuff, virtual assistants, like trying to grow Seller Amp a lot. So we have like a team involved in that, right? Trying to run some paid ads and everything. So definitely delegation, managing a couple of different things. And then cash flow is always an issue. Like I'm just so addicted to buying stuff. And everything is just ultimately, making sure it sells when it needs to be, pay off cards, different stuff like that. But good problems. If you could tell me a year ago I could have these problems, I would be happy about it. So I got no reason to complain on that.
Yeah, I hear you, man. You stole my answer. My answer was going to be cash flow. Like as a thrifter, all the years that you guys have been following me, everyone who's been watching, like cash flow has never been an issue because I buy a book or I buy an item from a thrift store or a garage sale for a couple bucks. It's like cash flow. People are like, what do you pay yourself? It's like, I pay myself everything. It's like, I have so much profit. With online arbitrage, I'm spending 8 to 10 to 12, even more per month, $1,000 per month. And it's like now all of a sudden, like I'm not paying myself because like I'm trying to grow my business. So like all my profits, over the last month, I made about $8,000 in profit, but it's all going back in after what I get paid from Amazon. In order for me to scale at the rate that I want to scale, it's all going back into the business, then managing virtual assistants and like paying myself's not even a thing right now. And I'm okay with that. I know I could pay myself if I slowed down the scale, but I'm trying to get to 40K per month by the end of the year. And it's just cash flow is it's definitely a challenge for me. So, yeah, God bless you guys for doing this for all these years. It's great. It's a great skill set to learn and definitely looking forward to growing. So let's jump on to the next question. What's one tool that you guys could not live without? We'll start with Miles because I don't know. I have no idea what Miles's answer is going to be. So we'll start with Miles.
Yeah, honestly, I'm gonna say like all the ones I use, to be honest, like Keepa everyone has, and then Seller Amp if you're an arbitrage seller, right? Profit calculator, mobile app if you're doing wholesale, OA, you need it. And then from a repricing perspective, they all serve different purposes. You know what I mean? The one I guess I would say I need the least is probably Inventory Lab on it, but like Beco is very important for repricing, and then Seller Amp and Keepa are the offensive ones actually finding items. So I definitely put that up there. But yeah, keep on Seller Amp from an offensive perspective. Could live without BQ, but I want to have all of them, obviously. But yeah, keep on Seller Amp, my top two.
Awesome. John, what stands out for you? What's one tool? I guess that was kind of a loaded question I asked because you're so right. Like every tool serves its own little area of the business. So it's like, you can't just neglect one area and then like you only focus on sourcing and then you're like 12th in place because you're not repricing your inventory. But what stands out to you, John?
For me, I really like, I was going to say Keeper and Seller Amp, obviously, because that's what I do a lot. But I think one thing that I like, I know a lot of people don't like tactical arbitrage because it's very difficult. It might have taken me like 6 months to learn. I still don't know a ton, but I do think there's a tool called Tactical Expander that works with tactical arbitrage. And I think that is really powerful. You could basically like scrape ASINs from stores. You could search sites that aren't available in tactical arbitrage. So I think that's a super, super valuable tool. And if you get tactical arbitrage, I would suggest getting that as well, because just doing the general searches like Walmart grocery, that all that stuff's going to tank. It's on the lead list. So I'd say Tactical Expander is kind of a slept on tool. There's not that much info out there on it.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to look that up. So besides DS Quick View, Seth, what's your favorite?
Well, the obvious ones are Keepa, Seller Amp, Inventory Lab, and Be Cool. But to be unique and like, I feel like not enough people use this tool. It's literally a free tool. It's called Google Sheets, and put all your ASINs in the Google Sheet. And like when you have an idea, put it in the Google Sheet. That way you don't lose all the great ideas that you have. And that way you can go back and purchase stuff that you've already sold in the past, because like, goodness, are you just going to keep sourcing new stuff and never replenish the stuff that you have already been selling well? Like put it in the Google Sheet, And
Yeah.
like, that's a great tool.
One click with the seller amp integration on
Exactly.
that. And
Yeah.
for VAs too. Yeah.
Yeah. You can set that up to literally click a button and have it go into a Google Sheet, and then you can put it into your own Google Sheet. And you can have your VA do that, like you said. Yeah.
I saw that feature. I haven't tried it yet. I'll have to look into that. Cool.
It saves so much
Game
time.
changer for the VAs, dude. Like the VA is gonna make it so much easier too.
Dude, the things I was having my VAs do over the last 5 months, like you would just be like, are you serious? You living in 1952? But I'm learning. I'm slowly learning. Jameson, what about yourself, man?
Obviously, I'll jump on the same boat as everybody else. I would say Keep is probably my number one tool for OA. Man, the Keep alerts are a game changer for my OA part of the business. And then also, too, I would say my repricer, Seller Snap, which is amazing. I think it's probably the best repricer that I have ever used on the market right now. And that's probably just as good as Keepa to me. I love that repricer because it helps me make more money than the majority of the other sellers on the listing, because it pulls your price up a lot. And I do a lot of like the extra features you can use on it. Like there's a yo-yo feature that I use on there where for 30 minutes, my price will drop down with everybody else. And then for 30 minutes, my price will go up $5 or $6 or $7, and I'll pull sales at $5 or $6, $7 higher when there's 20, 30 sellers that are $5 or $6, $7 lower. So like the $500 price tag a month for it, like it pays for itself with those little extra features that you can use within the repricer. It's pretty dope.
Who was the guy who was at the Miami 2022? He does like 50 million a year. What's his name?
Oh man, I forgot. Yeah, that one guy.
Scott
I don't
Needham.
hear. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Scott Needham.
Yeah,
Man.
he has a similar strategy. I know Avery just came out with a video because now Avery's using a repricer called Max Channel. I believe that's what Scott Needham was using, and it did the same thing, I believe, where it like raises your prices during the middle of the night and whatnot, which is interesting. So yeah, thanks for sharing. I'll hop on the boat with a lot of what everyone else is saying. Keep seller amps been huge. I actually just signed up for Be Cool because I was using Reprice It, and it just wasn't doing what I wanted. So I had my VAs manually repricing for like the last 4 months. Yeah, Miles, I know. Never
It'll
told
be
you guys.
good, though, with BQ. That'll be great. You'll like your bars will be bigger like the day you turn it on and everything.
Yeah, we're slowly getting it up because I've never set minimum and maximum prices. So like now I'm having all my VAs go in and like we're setting minimum and max. So we have like 60 or 70 set up so far. And there's been a couple sales that have come in, but I'll say this right now, guys, for everyone watching, like you might be listening like, oh my God, what's Keepa? Like what's Snap, whatever, freaking Snapchat, whatever Jameson is using. Seller amp, like all these things, like, oh, it's so intimidating. Like there's all these things, like everybody started not knowing anything. Everybody started from the ground floor, losing money or buying items and, just doing things wrong. Like you go in phases. So don't get discouraged. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And then, you get to Jameson and Miles level and Seth's and John's where you're on step 55, step 60. It's like a video game. You have to go through the levels. So awesome advice. Here's an interesting question. I want you guys to honestly answer. I'm going to answer it honestly. I need you raise your hand, guys, if you promise to answer honestly. Don't worry. I'm not asking for your social security. Everyone going to be okay. I'll answer first. All right. How many times do you check your sales on the Amazon seller app every day? I'll probably say 10 to 15. Jameson?
I'd probably say 10 to 15 times an hour.
Seth, we'll keep going around.
Yeah, like it's fun seeing the new stuff sell. So probably 15 to 20 times a day.
Yeah, I gotta be 15, 20 plus.
Yeah, I'm around there too, 15.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, like sometimes I'll tease myself like in the morning. That sounds really bad. Like I won't check it for a little bit. And like, I'll just wait and be like, oh, did I have any sales? And then I don't know. It's weird. Once you start selling, it's just fun. It's like, it is like a video game. You're checking, you're like, what the heck? Like I slept all night and I sold $300 worth of stuff. Like that's so cool. I remember when Jameson used to come to my house, dude, like you'd be having like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 days. Didn't you what was your craziest day in Q4 last year? Wasn't it something ridiculous?
I had a few $15,000 days. I remember the year the Lovabella came out, that Q4, one day I sold like 46 grand in like one day. That's the highest day I've ever had. But I like sold through like, a ton of stuff in one day that just like did well. And that was my best day.
Now ever. You know what it's like to be Amazon lit for a day.
Yeah, for an hour.
All right, guys. I'm gonna probably pick out a couple more questions. I know Miles has to leave a little bit early, so feel free to just interrupt, man, when you have to jump out, because I know you got some things going on. So I'll probably just ask maybe 1 or 2 questions, then I'll get into some Q&A, because I know there's a lot of people asking questions. Let's start with Miles on this. What advice would you give to someone who wants to start selling on Amazon, but they only have like $500 or less, and they don't have any previous reselling experience? Do you think starting with online arbitrage is the best way to go? Or like, what are your thoughts? Because I know you have a coaching program. I know you help people, and all of us who have channels, like, you know how it is. A lot of people don't like, they come into this, they want to make a bunch of money, and maybe they're working a job. They only have a couple $100 saved. Like, what's your advice? Because it's always a tough question I get.
Yeah, so keep $20 a month, Cellaramp free trial, start doing OA, but also get some book action going on stuff, because naturally, if you have only a little bit of money, you probably have time available, or at least time you could productively use to then learn a new skill. And you have to understand it's going to take a while to get good at it. We've all been doing this for years. That's why now we're good at it. Naturally, it's completely unrealistic to be very good at it your first month. It takes a while. All of us can see stuff that beginners can't see, and that's why we're able to have disproportionate output, because we've been in the game a while, so now we see opportunities others don't see. But yeah, I'd say keep a Cellaramp free trial on that, and then just start finding items. The nice thing is there's no secret. There's obviously stuff you'll pick up as you go, but there's no secrets, and that literally, like, you'd be on an even playing field, and that we'd be able to see the same Cellaramp data. I've just been in the game a lot longer, so I'll naturally see stuff you aren't, but it's all available. You got to put those reps and that time in the barn, right? Like, you're not going to start day one and be good tomorrow. The same way if you went to the gym the first time, you wouldn't be super fit tomorrow. But over time, you grow. And it's the same way with this. You just got to build that muscle, and it takes a while too. But yeah, $500 is definitely enough to start, especially right if you have time available, which if you only have that amount of money, you probably have time available. So yeah, definitely doable. Obviously, it's going to naturally be harder, but if someone comes to me and they say I have 20 grand, I still say take $1,000, get started with, and then build as you build confidence, because naturally you're going to make mistakes, and better for those to be inexpensive ones rather than expensive ones.
Awesome. Thanks for the insight. Chief Stacks in the house. What's going on, my man? Great to see you here from back in the day.
Come up,
Thanks
king, up in this thing.
Oh, man. Houston, right?
He's Dallas now.
Dallas. Good to see you, man. Maybe 30 seconds or less, guys. Let's keep moving around. John, what are your thoughts?
I think $500 is enough to start on Amazon, but I would probably suggest trying to flip on Facebook Marketplace, get stuff for free, build up like a bankroll to like 2 or 3 grand. I agree with starting with books, but there's going to be a long time frame before you start to get that money back. So, I mean, I started doing Facebook Marketplace. I did used furniture, got a lot of it for free, got tables for 50, flipped them for like 150. I was in a year just doing it on the weekends. I was able to do like 25 grand profit. So I would say start with stuff in your house. Like if you don't want this water bottle, like sell it for $5 and just keep moving and build up a little bit more capital and see if you even like flipping. Amazon's a lot of work to set up an account and get seller and see if you even like it. And then if you really like it, you'll get addicted and you'll want to take it bigger and go to Amazon.
Awesome. Nice. Seth, what are your thoughts on like $500 to get started with eBay to Amazon flips?
For eBay to Amazon flips, I think you could do that. I would probably say with $500, even if it's just for like a couple weeks or like to get the first couple sales, doing books is not a bad option. And then also from there, a really nice integration is to purchase stuff from eBay to Amazon, because the margins, like, you can be more picky about what your margin is, and that way you're not going to have to purchase stuff with super low ROI at the very beginning when there's a lot of mistakes to be had and there's a little bit more cushion for you. So that is a way that you can go. Yeah.
Very, very nice. Jameson, what are your thoughts, man? I remember when you started, Jameson, not to put you out on blast, but you put it out publicly. You were struggling financially years back, and you started from the ground up, man, with nothing. So what are your thoughts?
It's definitely doable. Amazon is a lot more challenging now than it was when we started. I mean, back then when we started, like I started with a couple $100, it was doable back then. It's doable now, but you will face a lot more challenges. There's so many more sellers. Like I was just talking to a friend the other day on the phone about RA. Like I went out and I did a little bit of RA at Targets, And pretty much everything I had bought that was, MSRP items, by the time it got to Amazon was selling, I'm like making 3%, and like I saw, on the listings, 10, 15 just launched sellers pop up selling for many, many dollars lower than me. And like, obviously, we don't know their source of where they're getting it from. Some of them probably got it a little bit cheaper than I did, but that many sellers, generally, they probably all didn't get it cheaper than me. They probably are inexperienced and they didn't know what they were doing. But it is a lot more challenging in the RA game. I do have a couple friends that are doing RA that just started out, that I encouraged one to start doing a little bit of wholesale, and I gave him a couple wholesalers in Cali where he lives, and he's doing fairly good with that at a smaller scale. I definitely recommend doing eBay at the same time. If you want to jump in Amazon with just $500, do eBay, so you can, lower dollar items, higher ROI, so you can build up that money. And if you have free time, do Uber Eats or something, it'll be easier if you can come up a little bit more cash nowadays. I think it's definitely, you do need more cash, but it's definitely doable with, a few $100. It just is going to take a little bit while since there is so much more competition now. And like, I've never used SellerAmp, but the way you guys, and I know Avery and stuff uses it. Something like that would probably be a lot better since that's a newer tool in the game that obviously seems like you guys are doing great with. That was probably a way that I would probably think that would be good for people to jump on, because not 10 million sellers are out using that yet. So you could probably do really, really well with that early on up front now with that. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Appreciate the insight, man. And before you head out, because I know you got to leave in a couple of minutes, Miles, there was a question coming in. Maybe you could answer this and then head out. April wanted to know, so touch briefly on how SellerAmp works for reverse sourcing. And again, we actually did a video that should be coming out soon, so you can keep an eye on my channel or just YouTube it, and there's a bunch of people talking about it. How exactly does it work? Because I actually don't even use it for reverse sourcing. So
yeah, so basically there's kind of three parts to it. We have a website, like a web app, and then a mobile app, as well as the Chrome extension. The Chrome extension is how you would want to do reverse sourcing. So basically, if you have SellerAmp, which you can get a free trial of on our site, there's tutorials on my channel. Steve's coming out as well soon. So there's visuals that make it a lot easier to see. But yes, you have the profit calculator, which will tell you exactly how much you're making based on what you pay. You can also open up other sellers' catalogs, and there's a UI that lets you filter their products by the different brands they carry, by the different categories they carry, as well as scroll through and see the buy box, what you would expect to pay for it, the sales rank, and the Keepa, so you can get through the junk a lot quicker and only end up looking deep into the stuff that already fits your velocity and pricing criteria, essentially. So yeah, it just kind of makes it easier to get through the junk and then make better decisions once you do find something you do want to buy. But April, definitely, you can feel free to take a look at our site. There's tutorials, and on my channel, and then Steve's coming soon. I think it'll make a little bit more sense, but a little hard to explain. But basically helps you, does it sell? Can you sell it? Is it profitable? And then helping you then find more items moving forward.
Awesome. Well, Miles, thank you for coming on, my man. I know you got to run, but thanks for all the value. And again, keep an eye out on my channel. He'll be coming on, and check out his channel, Flips for Miles. Yep. But we'll all stay for 20 more minutes, do some Q&A. But Miles, take care, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. Thanks for everyone watching too. We got to run this again at some point.
Peace.
Awesome. So we got a question that came in from Brown Enterprises. It looks like there was a conversation going on in the chat regarding accounting and all that fun stuff. What do you guys use for software to, keep track of bookkeeping? I use QuickBooks personally. Back in the day, I used to use GoDaddy bookkeeping. Fun fact, they actually just shut it down. My mom was using it, and they pretty much just said, peace. And they shut the whole thing down, which was interesting. What do you guys use?
I actually was using GoDaddy bookkeeping too, so I was super sad. Now I use QuickBooks and Inventory Labs to track everything.
Right. Awesome. How about yourself, Jameson? Or do you not believe in paying taxes or any of that type of stuff?
Nice try, IRS. No, I use QuickBooks and Inventory Lab myself also.
What are taxes?
You guys are making money here.
It's crazy. I'm not going to name drop. Of course not. It was an old friend of mine, but he didn't even pay taxes. He wasn't tracking his books for 4 or 5 years. And it's just crazy. People live like that. There's a lot of resellers out there, believe it or not.
Dang, did he get in trouble or anything?
I haven't talked to him in a couple of years. But yeah.
Probably can't interrupt the board.
After I knocked him out, he disappeared. No. Yeah, but you know, it's tough because when you start your reselling business, it's almost like I'm going to source as much as I can. I'm going to start making money. Like I have all these hats I have to wear in my business, and it's like you have to take the time to slow down and keep track of your books. So how do you do that? Do you use QuickBooks as well, Seth?
No, for me, I just use Inventory Lab. I write expenses down in a Google Sheet, and then recently I signed up to work with the CPA/bookkeeper, and they use Xero to kind of sync everything together. And so I have a meeting with them every month, and we keep track of stuff.
Awesome. I actually have a question I would like to bring to everyone's attention, and even in the comments, because this is a challenge that I'm struggling with. And I think I sent, John, I think I sent you a Instagram message the other day about this. And I think you were still like, you were kind of on the same page with me. Like, I don't know. Like, I think there's a report. So I'll aim this at Jameson and Seth. How do you reconcile your shipments? Like, for example, you know, say you ship out, Jameson, I remember there's been times that you would stay at my house, you wouldn't leave, you would be using my garage as your fulfillment center, and you'd be sending in thousands of items. Like, how do you reconcile that things are like getting to Amazon, getting checked in? Like what happens when there's discrepancies? Like they were supposed to receive 30 in a batch and there's only 26, or a month goes by and it's just like sitting there as like, it's just an open order and they haven't received it. Like that's a challenge I'm dealing with. And I'm trying to like implement a system. I'm working with a refunds manager, and back in the day, they used to like hunt it down and get you money, but now they're like, we don't touch that anymore because they don't accept the receipts. Like if it's lost, you're kind of screwed. Like, what's the reality here? Because I feel like things are changing so much. Like I'm a little out of the loop now at scale.
Yeah, definitely. I use Amazon Seller Pros to do my reimbursements and like, check to make sure everything matches up. If I got reimbursed properly for, a return or anything like that, or missing items from the shipment. When you do have stuff missing from a shipment, or when Amazon says you have stuff missing from a shipment, it's a lot more challenging to get reimbursed, even if you have invoices from a wholesaler or invoices from a retail store. It is challenging to get them to accept them. I've ran into, some problems this year where I'll ship in, a shipment, and they'll say, I have one that I'm messing with now where they said 255 items were missing from my shipments. And they told me like 3 months after it arrived. And so I'm fighting that, with that. And it's been challenging to get reimbursed for it because they're rejecting the invoices or not reimbursing you what you should get reimbursed for. So that's something that I'm open to, is like trying to figure out where's the solution to figure this out. Because I know a lot of sellers that are having that challenge where stuff is, missing in their shipments, or I don't know if it's being scanned in properly, or where things are getting messed up. But it's definitely a lot more challenging now than it was years ago.
Gotcha. Checkmate. Anything to add to that, or?
I'm not honestly the best at that side of the business, and I basically just trust that a majority of the time things are going to go good enough, and my profit margin is going to be lower than I expected, but it's still going to be like good enough as long as I continue sourcing good inventory. I'm also signing up with Seller Bench to hopefully get some money back for like stuff that was reconciled wrong. We'll see how that goes, but I literally just signed up, so I have no clue how that's going to go. Yeah,
I've been using refundmanager.com, and like for like 5 months, they got me like $40. I feel like they're not doing their job really well. Like I'm not trying to I'm just like, I remember back in the day, they used to be really good, and I messaged them, and it's like, I don't know if their virtual assistants are working or they just took the whole, quarter off or whatnot. So I'm going to look into Amazon Seller Pros. Do you use anything, John?
I actually used to use Refunds Manager too. I 100% agree. It used to be so good. And someone recommended Get Ida. So I signed up with them the other day.
How do you spell that?
I think it's just Getida. I could DM you if that's not how it's spelled. I just signed up for an account the other day, and I literally emailed Refunds Manager because I didn't want them competing, opening cases. It's like, can you just cancel my account? They just sent me an email like it's been canceled. So I don't know if they're like not working or something, because like you'd think they'd be like, hey, like, can we do anything? Or they're like, okay, bye. I was like, okay, bye. So yeah, we'll see how that happens. They haven't opened any cases yet, but I saw in a group chat that I was in, some really big seller, they got him like 35K back after signing up. I mean, they do massive numbers, but yeah, so hopeful.
I saw a question that came in earlier as well about getting items checked in. Do you guys have any tips for how to get items checked in quicker? Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is my understanding of how things work. You send out a shipment, either yourself or from your prep center, then it lands at the fulfillment center, then they disperse it to the other fulfillment centers, right? And then once it finally checks into the final place, like it's available for sale. Like, can you guys talk about what does like back ordering mean? What does it mean? Like if your inventory is active, but like it shows zero quantity in your inventory. Like, does that mean it hasn't checked in yet? Like, because once you ship it out, like it'll show active in your inventory. And then sometimes like people could buy it before it hits the fulfillment centers. Like, what are your thoughts on that, Jameson? Because I know you've been doing this for a long time.
Wow. Sorry, I was reading the questions over there as you were talking, and then I literally like
it was only a 7-part question. I expect you to
dude, yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, how about John? Do you have any thoughts on that?
So for me, I feel like a lot of it's hearsay. Like you hear a lot from other sellers. It's a lot of, oh, I've tried this, or I've heard just putting the only items of the same SKU in one box, making smaller shipments. I do think it has a lot to do with warehouses. I noticed when my prep center is kind of in the middle of nowhere, the check-in times are a lot longer there. If I were to do a shipment myself and ship it to like AVP, which is in Pennsylvania, it gets checked in a lot quicker. I also think it depends on your items. I think books, DVDs, grocery stuff gets checked in much faster. I sell a lot of apparel and it seems to bounce around a lot. So I don't really have like a solid answer, but I don't know. It's kind of a mix of what I've figured out the last couple of months.
How long does it take items to check in, Seth and John, when your prep center stops responding? No, I'm not going to go into that.
Wow.
It's been a hard time.
Stuff is just starting to check in. I think today. It's been about like almost 2 months.
Yeah, we could talk a little bit about prep centers. I actually decided not to use one just because, so I buy mostly off of eBay, guys, as you probably know. And I hate to say this, and I put out a video the other day and people weren't thrilled about it, but it's like 10 to 15% of eBay sellers are just so terrible. Like they ship like $80 DVDs that like I'm going to sell for 200, like in a poly bag with like no protection. And like, they'll put like an $80 Monopoly game. Like literally they'll ship it out in a poly bag. Like it's not going to get kicked around by the post office. Like they'll lie about conditions. Like they'll hide things in the photograph. So like, it's forced me to have to be really strict. Like, how do you guys deal with all this stuff? Like, how do you deal with these challenges? What are your thoughts, Jameson?
Since I don't do the eBay to Amazon flips, I don't have that issue. But I have a really good prep center where they inspect all the items that come in. If they ever get items that are questionable, that they're not sure, it's like, oh, there's, like, is this new? Is this, returnable? They'll send me photos. We have a WhatsApp group with my manager of the prep center, the one that runs my prep shipments, and then the owner of the prep center, and then a couple of the employees are, and we all have our own WhatsApp group, and they'll send me stuff every day if they have any questions about anything, or like, hey, we got this instead of that. Okay, what do you want to do with this? Okay, do you want us to send this back to you? Do you want to set up a return? And like, say they get in damaged, items, I'll just set up the return. I'll email them the label, and they'll slap it on the box, and they'll take care of it and do the return and everything for me. So they're really good with that, about quality control, making sure it's the correct item that comes in, making sure the item is actually new, actually sealed, and that the legit item is going to the correct, on the right listing, right ASIN and stuff like that. So I very rarely, maybe 1 out of, 5,000 items will be an issue, but they're really good at what they do to keep things in line.
You're muted.
You're muted.
I want you guys to read my lips. So earlier in the show, Seth was talking about he likes his items to sell within 1 to 2 weeks, which you told me that behind the scenes. And I was like, wow, like I'm happy if it sells within, a month or two with the type of items I sell. What are your guys' goals with like your turnover rates and your profit margins? I know, Seth, you're usually aiming for like somewhere between like a 30 and a 50% margin, I believe.
Yeah, somewhere in that ballpark. Yeah.
And what about yourself, John and Jameson? I'm curious, like, when you buy an item, like, of course, we always want items to sell right when it checks in. But what would you say is like your average turnover rate when you're dealing with like, retail, type items that you're doing OA from like Walmart's, Targets, Kohl's, Barnes and Noble, places like that, Nike, Lego? Like, what's your average turnover rate, John?
For me, it's usually pretty quick. I like to have it sold within 30 days. I'm still kind of working on getting the metric because I have 2 Amazon accounts, and the one that I do all the OA on had CDs and DVDs on it. So that stuff obviously just sat there. So it's kind of messing with the metrics of OA. But yeah, I like to shoot for like 30-ish% margin. When I'm buying stuff, I typically want to be okay. Like I know the break even number, and like I'm looking on the Keepa to make sure like it's never hit the break even number, or if it has, like I'm well aware that it could, like that is a possibility. So I like to build in lots of margin. So like if the price goes down $3 or $4, I'm still making like 2 or 3. So yeah.
How about yourself, Jameson? What are your thoughts on your average turnover rate and your margins that you're looking for on your average flip?
See, average turnover rate, I think I'm sitting at around 45 days, give or take. And as far as ROI and stuff I am selling, generally 30%. It really depends. A lot of factors. Is this an RA item? Is this an item that everybody else can get? Because then in that case, then I want it to be higher, because I know by the time it sells, I could be getting 50% less than what it was when I scanned in the store. So stuff like that, I generally want higher, so that way I'm not doing all this work to make 3%, and also depending on how fast it sells. If say I can find a $50 video game that I know I can make, $9 or $10 on, and I can get, 30, 40 copies, and they sell fairly quickly, I'll take, a $9 profit on a $50 video game, if I know that it's going to, it won't tank at all, and then it'll stay there and I can flip it fast. So there's a lot of factors and variations before I do jump on a set like ROI for my items that I buy.
Hey, Seth, what do you do when you have an item that you purchased and you're like, man, this item is either tanked because of competitors have come in, or just something to do with the price or the market has just changed on that item? Like, is there a certain amount of time that has to pass by where you're like, all right, I'm going to blow this thing out, I'm going to change the price. Like, I get it, the buy box was here over the last year, but I don't want my money sitting and just doing nothing. Because again, the whole goal of e-commerce is to get your money to work for you, to turn things over as quick as you can, put out $20, and then your little worker brings back 25. Then you take the 5, reinvest it, and hopefully you build up to a point where you've got all these little workers, these little products that are flipping and bringing you back profits. So what is your mindset around that?
Yeah, it's a good question, and people talk about this a lot. I think I first of all want to be aware of the fact that if I purchased an item like that, it was most likely my fault for not looking at all the data correctly, because most of the time there will be a slight spike in the sellers, even at the point that you have purchased that. And then it just gets worse and worse by the time it's in, and then it tanks. So that's a pattern that you can be looking for. And if you purchase with that pattern, like, it's a lot more likely to have your stuff tank. As far as what do I do when I've actually made the mistake, I'm pretty aggressive about it, because I realize I've made a mistake. Let's move this money and like put it into something else. Obviously, like if there's like 3 people on a fast moving listing that have like a much lower price, let them sell out, like, and analyze that. But if like people come in with a ton of quantity much lower and like it's consistent, then like you got to just match them and move on. That's my point of view with it, and it sucks, but that's how it is, I think.
Man, it's part of business. John, I'm sure you deal with that from time to time where you buy something. Are you going really deep on products, or are you going more wide with more ASINs versus, buying more quantity?
I'm going very wide and then deep. I've been doing a lot more of test buying lately, where normally I would buy right off the bat like 10 or 18 units, but now I'm buying like 3 to 5. This is like more like $60, $70 things that I'm not really prepared to go 10. But if those 3 or 5 sell like how I think they're going to sell and they sell through, then I'll go deeper. I've been playing around with this, and actually, Chris Grant, I don't know if you know him, he
Yep.
does the OA challenge, and he talked about repricing similar to like what Jameson did with like the yo-yo and stuff like that. So right off the bat, I'm setting like a minimum floor, everything I'm selling for 20% ROI. So I'm grabbing sales as it goes up, as it goes down, and usually I could move everything in 30 days. And then if it doesn't sell for like 20%, ROI in 30 days, then it goes like in this like liquidation funnel to get break even or take the loss, whatever it may be.
John, can I ask you about that? So
Yeah, sure.
if you do that, like obviously that's a much more hands-off approach if you have your minimum set to 20%. So how do you ensure that like a majority of your product, if possible, is going to sell for like the price you sent it in for? Because let's say your minimum is 20%, but like you were aiming for 38% or 42% or whatever it was. Like, how do you try to get a majority of those like mid-tier sales with your minimum changed? Does that make sense?
So it's been interesting. So I've been playing around with Go Aura because it had a free trial, and they have these like automated workflows where it's basically, I don't know, I almost feel it's less work. When I was using Be Cool, I was manually looking at it and just keep changing it back and forth, and I was wasting a lot of time. So I was like, if I could grab at least 20% ROI, it'd be better than trying to chase like the 30, 40, like having to keep repricing. And then like, I don't know, at first it wasn't so bad, but now that there's like 100 different SKUs there, it's a lot to manage and kind of reprice. So there are things that like, for example, I was selling this one item and some of them were selling for like 48.99 and others were selling for like 42, 43, 44. But I feel like if I was locked in at 46 or at 48, I would have missed like 5 sales. And like I feel the listing can change so quickly that I'd rather get it going down and going up. And I've noticed a huge like spike in sales just doing that. And for Aura, usually what happens is it doesn't hit the 20% that you have set. It automatically brings it to your max price. So it kind of helps the other sellers go up to that. And I've definitely seen getting the sales at like the max price super helpful. And with Aura, you could do like time-based workflow rules where after 30 days, it just pops it in the liquidation funnel. So I don't even have to think about like moving it or setting it up. They like take like the 20% RO the bottom, they calculate it for you. So it's just a lot of less work that I have to do. And it's worked out a lot better. And while I realize I could probably get more at the top, the time it takes to like get that, I feel like for other items, like it's gonna tank. So like it's kind of a wash at the end of the day, and I'm saving a lot of time.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Brown Enterprises wanted to know, have you guys tried listing the same item using multiple SKUs so you can experiment with different price points? Or are there any like repricer settings where you can take like a single SKU, like say you had 5 quantity, obviously you're going to list it under one SKU. I'm actually curious about this as well. How do you guys deal with that? You know what I mean? Like
I've never tried that, but you can definitely list stuff under different SKUs, and you can like I've listed stuff under different SKUs that were different condition, and of course like had different prices because of that. But that's definitely something that you could do.
I thought it was against terms of service because I always train my team like
Really?
don't use different. Yeah, because it would like think about it. It kind of like makes it a bad experience for the buyer because you go in and like you see the same seller saying the same condition, like multiple. You're like kind of taking over like the real estate. So I would actually advise not to do it. Same.
I probably shouldn't do that then.
Is that what you're thinking too, Jameson?
Yeah, definitely. You're not supposed to do that for sure.
How do I
Probably
avoid
mess up
doing
the
that?
buy box rotation too. If you have multiple listings.
I don't know how you would fix that, because I was actually making that issue. I was having that issue in the past when I wasn't even, because I used to never use custom SKUs because I didn't know how to do it. I was just lazy. That was, over a year ago, but I never got in trouble with it. But I see a lot of my competitors doing that. Like, they'll be on the same listing, same condition. Like, I have one guy who sells like all the same stuff as me. He's always like got 3 listings like under the same listing, same condition. I'm like, this dude's gonna get banned. I'm like, please do. Do you guys notice that as well? I'm curious. And if anyone has to leave, we'll get off in a minute or two. Feel free to just raise your hand, take off. Do you notice, like, Jameson and stuff, that like you're on listings with a lot of the same people? Like, you see the same storefront names all the time. Like, someone who
yeah.
Because I got like 5 or 6, not a ton, because I think my model's a little different. Like, I don't think there's as many people doing what you guys do, but you see a lot of competitors where like they're always on your listing.
All the time. Yeah. I was touching what Brown Enterprises just said. Yeah, you can do that. If you're listed merchant fulfilled and FBA, then you can be on there twice when you're on a listing. That way you can do it safely.
Awesome. So let's see, kind of like a final, I guess, a final wrap up question for everybody before we take off, because I don't see a ton of questions coming in right now. What do you guys see as like the biggest opportunity moving forward right now in your business? Like, is there anything that's got you really, really excited, or something you're just really trying to take advantage of and like scale, or just anything that's got you really just, I don't know, pumped up about the future? Maybe John, you can start first.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely online arbitrage. I mean, that's kind of vague, but coming from bulk books, it's so much difficult. I mean, I just see the scale in OA, and I honestly thought everyone was kind of like full of it. Like, they're posting all these numbers and finding all this stuff and all these leads. And I'm only now starting to get it as like being like probably 6 months into it. Now that I have like a catalog of stuff that I could buy consistently, it's taken a long time to get there. Now I have like a lot of friends like Jameson who like are sending me leads, and ASINs are just random people.
Where's my leads, dude?
They're in the mail. I had sent them. But see, my account is not set up like that.
Sending me last year's junk.
But yeah, I think online arbitrage is probably the biggest opportunity for me and for anyone else. Just the amount of, when I think of when I started with books, almost how much work it was. Like, you got to get the scanner, you got to go to all these thrift stores, and it's worth it. But like, to be able just to sit at your house or wherever you are, just order what you need to order. And even if you're not sending to their prep center, like when you first start, it's not a big deal to get a bunch of packages, put them in the same boxes they came in, and send them to Amazon. So I do think that's probably like going to be a really scalable model for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think a lot more people are going to start moving towards OA, just because I don't know how much you guys thrift and stuff nowadays. I'm sure you guys still do it from time to time for fun, but thrift stores are just a shit show nowadays. Like, it's crazy, like how many more competitors are there. It's just like, I would never see people scanning books. Now it's like, I walk in, there was a team of 7 in there the other day, and they come in and it's a whole different game. You can still make money because stuff comes out all the time, but it's like, I don't know if I can make a full-time income just from thrift stores anymore. I just don't know if I have the energy. Maybe when I was in my 20s, maybe I can do it, right? I don't know. But what are your thoughts, Seth? What are you excited about right now with the eBay to Amazon flipping and whatnot?
Yeah, I actually, ironically, was just at a thrift store today, found $120 there, but
Nice.
it's getting like it's fewer and further between. And I think the cool thing is, like, there's a cool opportunity when, like, there's so many people who sell on eBay, there's so many people who sell books on Amazon, and like doing something like eBay to Amazon online arbitrage is a really cool hybrid into Amazon. And Steve can attest to this. Like, once you understand the sourcing, once you have a chunk of money that you're reinvesting, like, you can systematize it. And like, literally for me, like, I don't spend much more than, I think at max I spend 25 hours a week on Amazon, and usually it's more like 15. Like, it can be really passive, and you can make like 3 to 10K a month, like pretty solidly doing like part-time hours, and then you can go learn something else if you want to, or you can just be like happy with that income and just enjoy. So it like the passivity of Amazon, once you kind of understand the systems, is really exciting for me.
Yeah, it's so true, man. It's a really good point. What are you excited about, Jameson, man? I know Q4 is coming up soon, so you're probably going nuts, stocking up, man, right? Borrowing money from your grandparents, just loading.
Well, man, I'm really excited for RA right now, man. With all the issues they had last year, supply chain and everything like that, stores are overwhelmed with inventory right now. So, I mean, Target's doing tons of 50, 70% off. There's tons of clearance at Walmart nationwide that they have no choice but to have to put this stuff on clearance because they're still a season behind in putting stuff out. And they have Christmas coming where they probably have new stuff coming in. So I think a lot of the retail stores are going to be clearancing stuff like crazy this next few months. And it's going to be a really good opportunity for us. Some of the stuff you're able to sell right now. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of us out there, swooping this stuff up. But if you have, the capital to like buy this and hold this for a few months, I think you could do even better. So I'm out there buying stuff I know is going to do really well, in 6 months, during Christmas time that, may perform okay right now, but it's too risky because there's so much of it on the shelves. So I'm out buying stuff right now, loading up, at Targets and Walmarts and stuff like that, trying to buy as much as solid inventory as I can for Q4 and everything I'm buying is 50 to 70% off retail right now. Also, here, the Brown Enterprise asked a question too about receipts and with taking photos. When I do retail arbitrage and my receipts, or even OA too, when my receipts have the UPC on it and there's a good description of the item in the title of that item, I don't take photos. But if, say, the store will just use like a Marshalls, I guess, Marshalls has their own SKU on it, which the UPC won't be on the SKU. I'll take the sticker of Marshalls, take that off, put it next to the UPC, and snap a photo of that, take a couple pictures of the item, and then save that in my cloud. So that way I have that. So if I do get an inauthentic on my item, I can send them the receipt and be like, here, look, the UPC, the SKU matches. The UPC is on the Amazon listing. The SKU here shows that matches on the receipt. And so I do, and sometimes I even, to be extra careful, I do take pictures of a lot of my items. It's probably not necessary, but I like to be extremely careful. So that way, if I do ever get an inauthentic or any type of complaint, I'm fully ready to fight that with a good POA, good pictures, and good receipts. Because then you just put yourself in a better position to sending in your stuff one time and them approving it, and then you moving on as going back and forth 10 to 15 times with them.
Cool. And do you guys mind if I ask one more question before we head out? Anyone who has to leave, feel free to, I don't want to hold it up if you got your family waiting and all that. But the last question I'm going to answer from Pablo is question about how do you guys manage cash flow when sometimes you don't see your return till after 30 days. So do you guys have any tips with like maybe a credit card you use or how you manage the cash flow? Or do you only scale to the point where like you're not having to go into debt every month? Or do you just like in the beginning, you just went hard into debt? Like feel free, you don't have to share anything you're not comfortable sharing, but just whatever comes to your guys' mind about this. Cause I know this is a big challenge that people deal with. And maybe John, you could take it first. Like, how do you deal with like just the cash flow issue? Cause it's the biggest thing. Like these things we're buying aren't like necessarily cheap, like at the thrift store.
Yeah. I think for me, I was in a unique situation where, the book business did really well. And at the time, because of restock limits and other things, it didn't make sense to buy any inventory because I had no space at Amazon. I didn't really want to merch fulfill it. So I just stacked up a bunch of capital because it just didn't make sense to spend it on books. And then I kind of went into OA and I was pretty well capitalized. But now I'm like starting to get to that point where it's like, oh, wow, like you're spending like 30, 40 grand a month. It's like, whew, like this is kind of like intimidating. But yeah, I think you just kind of have to, I put everything on credit cards mainly for points, but if American Express called me today or like we need the money, like I have it. So I don't stress about it because I know some people go like really deep and like, cause they know what's going to happen. But from my experience, you never know what's going to happen with Amazon when they're coming back on the listing or tank the price tanks or whatever. So I always like to have the capital to pay off credit cards at all times. I think it's a good opportunity. Obviously, like the points are great and stuff like that, but I think you want to not overextend yourself, but you also want to be a little uncomfortable at the same way. Because if you're just spending the same amount of money every month, then you're not really going to grow at a certain point.
Yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts are, Seth, because like I'm at the point now where it's like if I don't invest pretty much everything back into the business, like I'm not going to get to a point where like, because I really want to get to a point where like my business is spitting off. Like I don't really have any aspirations to be making 20, 30, 40 grand a month profit. Like if I could just make 8 to 10 grand a month profit, like profit, like I'm making it now, but like the problem is all my money is going back into building my inventory. You know what I'm saying? But like, how do I get to the point where like you can actually take that money out of the business? You know what I'm saying? Because like my business could be making 8 grand profit, but like it's only making 8 grand profit because I'm having to put all the money back in to like maintain it and build it up. So like that's the part that I feel like I'm really lacking just experience wise. And again, people might be thinking, well, how do you not know how to do this? Like thrifting was so different. Like this whole like cash flow management of money with OA is like a skill set that I'm just very weak at right now. So I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are, like Seth and Jameson.
Yeah, it's like to Pablo's question, there's a million different ways you can take it. You could literally just spend the cash that you have. I know people who they literally like if they don't have money in the bank, they're not going to spend it and they don't even use a credit card. That way there's no limit so that they don't overspend. You can do something with the Amex Plum business card where it's a 60-day turnaround like term time, so you can spend a lot right at the beginning of the statement and you'll have 60 days to pay it back. That helps, but if you're not buying fast moving stuff and anything goes wrong, like you're not going to be able to pay your minimum most likely. You can do that. You can also just I kind of did this, and like looking back, like it was very risky, just like continuing to get more and more credit and more limits, and like take an Amazon loan, open another card. I used Payability for a while, which was extremely expensive. I don't advise it. But like there's a lot of different options, and there's with each one of those options, there's different amounts of risk that you can take. Risk in both ways of like risk of not scaling more and making more money, and risk of like you're spending money that you don't have and it's riskier on that side. So it's a huge, hard discussion. If you want to cash flow like what you're at currently, just stop spending more week over week and month over month, and you'll catch up and you'll be able to pocket that. Because at a point, if you continue scaling and then you just suddenly spend like a fifth of what you were spending, like your payouts are just going to go back into your bank account, assuming stuff's selling. That's my 2 cents on this.
Yeah. And I think like just to touch on what you said, I think the big part is too, like eventually you're going to have to slow down on your spending, right? So like if you're spending, if Amazon's paying you out 10 grand and you're spending 10 grand, like you're going to cash flow nothing. So eventually you're going to have to spend 5, right? And continue to make 10, but I guess you're going to have to maintain an inventory level and make sure your inventory turns at that same rate and your profit margins stay the same. I'll come back to you guys in a year and let you know how things go with my business. But you still using the Capital One Spark, the 2% cash back, Jameson?
Yeah, right now I'm using Capital One Spark card, and then I use the Plum card too as well. And then also too, when I'm able to, every few months, maybe say every 4, 5, 6 months, I'll try to open up new lines of credit where I can get 0 APR, for 12 months with a nice bonus.
That's great.
So I try to do that. I try to like, before I'm going to open up credit cards, I make sure I pay all my balances down. I'll slow on my spending for a couple of weeks or whatever, so to allow the banks and credit card companies to report, my balances and what I owe and what I don't owe. So that way, my credit score goes back up, and then I'm able to swoop in, try to grab a couple more 0 APRs and just take advantage of those pretty much 0% interest-free loans, basically, as long as you're paying the minimum. I just got I don't remember the name of it. It was an Amex card, the blue one, last month, and they gave me like a 17K limit. And I went out and I bought a bunch of inventory. I already maxed it out really fast, and I'm able to pay, my $200 minimum a month and pay 0% interest for, I think it's like 15 months, 16 months, something like that.
Yeah, and if you start building up your business credit, you can also get business credit cards. And like, I had gotten a couple Chase cards that gave really good bonuses, like $1,000 to $1,200 if you spent like $15,000 in like 3 months. And it's like I could spend that in a month or month and a half. So if you have good credit, again, people get. I put out a video recently, and people were like, "Don't go into debt, Dave Ramsey." And it's like, I get it. Like, if you don't know how to manage your money. And I don't say that in a mean way. Like, if you have any issues with, it's kind of like if you have any issues in the past with like drugs, like you don't want to have a drink, like you don't want to do these things because you're like more vulnerable to get into trouble. So like credit cards are like very fragile. Like if you have issues, you don't understand them. Like I just wouldn't use them because you can definitely get yourself into trouble. But if you're good with your finances, there's ways to make a lot of money through like churning through different credit cards. And, if you have a good credit score and stuff, and that's what I've been doing. And I've been making good money. Like I'll probably make 10 grand this year just on like different credit card offers and stuff, So
that's what's up. One thing, when I first started selling on Amazon, I came from super broke background, welfare, poor, food stamps, and just no financial money sense at all. Like you have money, it's meant to be spent. And one thing I wish I would have, understood when I was younger, when I first got into reselling, is working on my credit and making sure I made smart credit decisions. Because when I started reselling, my credit score was like 400. Like I did not have any credit cards for a few, probably 3-4 years selling on Amazon, maybe 4. And so I wish I was smarter about that. Up until I got into reselling for a couple of years, 2-3 years, I was in the green room with Steve and some other good friends, and they really started to push me and kind of like mentor me. I'm like, here's how you build your credit. Okay, here's how you attack the debt. Focus on your debts, one at a time. Start paying them off. And I took all that to heart, and I really worked on my credit, building up my credit. So that way, when I was ready and my credit was high enough, I could open up credit cards and actually be smart with them and actually make a profit with my credit cards like I do now. And so I utilize credit cards like crazy. And I've taken the Dave Ramsey class. Like I took that, I learned a lot. There's a lot of good principles in that. But I also, I think there's also a lot of good opportunities with credit cards. So I take both into heart. And I really utilize, like I said, 0% APR credit cards, building up your credit, opening up more. And when I do open up new credit cards, I'll apply for like 3 or 4 in one day, one after the other. And so that way that they're not all reporting at the same time or whatever. And I can get, approved for 2 or 3 and then use that 0% APR and use that to help grow the business.
I think one last thing though, for cash flow, I think one of the biggest and best things you could do for cash flow is like your lifestyle. Like if you need like $5,000 a month to like go party or for cars and this and that, like cash flow is like really important. But like if you live like not like a simple life, but like if you're happy, like just know what you're happy with and take that out of the business. Like I have a certain number that I take out of the business regardless. And the rest of it kind of goes into the business to like roll around and keep building. So I feel like if you have a lot of people poo-poo on it and think that like you have to do Amazon like full time or like you're not like in the game, like another really good hedge is a job. Like have a job until like you could fully like take out what you need to take. I think a lot of people think that they have to just do Amazon full time or they're like not legit. And I had a job for 2 years and did it on the side. So I don't know. I think that's one of the best hedges you could do in terms of cash flow.
Yeah, have a side hustle, right? I know Seth's got a little side hustle that he does on the side. Jameson does beard modeling, so he makes a couple
lemonade stand.
Lemonade stand. I do well with social media and stuff, which is great. And nowadays, guys, like if you're not posting on like Instagram Reels or Facebook Reels, like they're starting to pay good money. Like people are making thousands of dollars. I was watching a bunch of videos yesterday. Like Instagram is going to pay me. So far, I'm up to like $800 this month just because of Instagram Reels. Like they're starting to pay like a lot because they're all competing with TikTok. So like if you're out there doing like reselling, like create some content and just post it. Like that's a great way to like YouTube pays well. Like once you get some subscribers, like hook a freaking GoPro up to your chest when you go to the thrift stores and post them. Like some of these YouTubers are making like 20-30 grand a month. Like I know them, I talk to them, they tell me like, I don't make anything near that because my channel doesn't get that many views, but strap a GoPro up, go to garage sales and thrift stores. Anybody can make $1,000 a month with ads because those things just take off. But I guess I'll leave it at that, guys. Appreciate you guys. Give Jameson a follow at Jameson Philippi. We got Seth at Checkmate Flips and John with Side Hustle Experiment. Appreciate you guys coming on. Any final words or anything you guys want to say before we head out, Jameson?
When you coming to Vegas, bro?
I want to come soon. I really do. You know, they have one-way flights now. I was actually just looking a couple days ago after we talked, and we'll have to stay in touch, man. You said that, you know, I got a place to stay, so finally you're going to pay back your dues after staying with me for
sleep next to all my Love Bella dolls.
Anything else, Seth? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, just take that next step and keep improving little by little every day, and don't get down on yourself for not knowing everything. Like, nobody knows everything. So just get out there.
Awesome. And John?
I guess just to follow up what Steve said about social media, I mean, it's a great way to make money, but it's also a great way to network. Like, I don't think any of us would be here on this live if it wasn't for social or finding out from events from Facebook or whatever. So I feel like even if like you're just posting, hey, I just started, like it just shows, like, get in the community, send some DMs, and that's probably one of the better ways to grow. Just ask questions.
Do some live shows with masterminds like this.
Yeah.
Like, I guess you could consider it work, but for me, it's like fun. It's like I'm masterminding, and then
I do this for hours.
Yeah. I want to start doing more of these. Well, thanks guys for coming on. I really appreciate you all. Thanks everybody for watching. So many great
Thanks for
comments
having us, brother.
in.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us, Steve.
All right, guys. Take care. Appreciate you.
Bye, guys.
All right. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.